I have had it just so last time. Let me see. It's okay if you miss like part of my head. You're not missing anything. It's all the stuff that you don't want to see what's going on anyway. It's all a bunch of junk up there. All right, ladies. So we're just going to start with our openness here through our throat, through our clavicles, pressing the tops of the shoulders down. And if you're feeling a little bit tense or out of sorts today, you can always start with your palms facing down. Otherwise, you can have those palms facing up. And starting with the breath through the nose, close the eyes, and just allow that first inhalation to draw way up from the base of the spine all the way up to the top of the head. And let the belly expand through that. And then exhale, release. Allow that navel center to sink back towards the spine on the exhalation. And then inhale, drawing the energy up from the base of the spine all the way up to the top of the head. Notice that the belly rises, the diaphragm presses downward, naturally opening the belly. And exhale, release. Notice there's this nice ebb and flow with the breath. So it's a nice inhalation. The breath tapers off at the top. Exhale, the breath releases. And drain all the things of tension, worry, concern. Drain all of that out with the exhalation. Let it go back to the earth for revitalization and cleansing. Inhale, the belly rises, drawing that energy up. And exhale, allow it to release once again. We're clearing that mind space, just following that breath. Watch it flow up and down peacefully. Notice that the face is soft as well here, and that the tongue is just centered here on the roof of the mouth behind the two front top teeth. And just feel the relaxation in between the eyebrows, the cheeks. And there's a softness in the jaw. Following the breath, inhale and exhale. Let's just begin to curl the spine back gently through that exhalation. And inhale, bring it open to lift. Notice the chin rises, a nice beautiful openness here for the throat. And then exhale, curl in once again. Inhale, it's like a dance with the breath and the movements coming together. And last time, exhale, curl in. And just hold the knees now. Now we have this beautiful kind of soft fold of the knees. There's nothing terribly deep about it. It's just your typical cross-legged pose. We're just flowing here in one direction. Exhale, fall through, and inhale, roll it back. And exhale, fall through. Inhale, roll it back. Notice that each of these passes are following the course of the breath. So it's that natural inhale coming back and exhale, reverse. And now we'll just change directions here. Same cross of the legs. Inhale, roll back. And exhale, reverse. Inhale. And exhale. So just enjoy that beautiful elongated rotation. And when we come back here to center, simply reverse the cross of the legs. And I know I always say this, but it feels really different and a little bit strange because we're always so used to crossing the same direction all the time. So it might feel a little awkward, but once you start moving with those rotations again, you'll notice, wow, that feels really nice. Kind of reaching places, spine and outer hip that you normally don't reach. The inhale comes back, and the exhale draws forward. And now reverse that as well. So this gentler form of hatha yoga is, sometimes it seems like we don't do too much because we're having to do things on both sides twice. So it's like we're doing it 4 times. So, but it just feels really great, and it really allows you to let the breath come into the movement and really just soften the mind and all the thoughts, which is wonderful. All right, so now that we've kind of warmed up the spine, we'll do the same thing for the top of the spine and the cervical spine at the neck, which, you know, these are these 2 areas, the lower spine and that top, that give us the most problems. So just allow now the chin to release down towards the chest. We'll do that same rolling motion. Inhale, bring it back. If you have any issues with the back of the neck, whether it be the higher portions, that C1, C2, or even lower, feel free on the inhale coming back to just rise those shoulders up towards the ears, and it does help to alleviate any pinching. We don't want to overdo, but we do want to open the space. Inhale coming back, and exhale, release down. And after your final roll through here, I like to do 3 on each side, generally speaking, and we're just going to reverse it. Inhale, come back, and exhale, roll through. Sometimes I'll end up doing 4 just because I'm in the middle of talking. And exhale, roll through. Notice that it's going to be really patterned after your own breath. So we all have different rates that we breathe at. So just to follow what is natural for you. And then slowly when we come back to center here, let's just open and lift through the chest. And lift and rise the arms all the way up. And this is where I need to be able to be seen a little bit differently on a different level because, oops, sorry, I did something. I don't think it was permanent. Good. All right. So I want you to be able to see me this direction as well. Take your thumbs and just bring the thumbs together as we rise the arms up. And then what happens is, pressing the tops of the shoulders down, we're going to really get into that space of the thoracic spine, the heart center, where by the end of the day, it looks like somebody took your battery pack out and just went unplug, and then you just slump. Usually by 7, 8 o'clock, that's what I look like. And nice deep rolls, and inhale through and exhale, take it back. And we'll do the same in the opposite direction. Now, you really don't want to be looking too far up because you might pinch something. Lots of weird things. Like, you know, when you have a shower, you're in the shower and you're washing your hair, and that's when you pull your back. It's always the weird, wacky places that we find those things happen. So we want to make sure that we're really honoring that natural kind of position of the body. And we don't want to over tilt the head, but we don't want to be looking down either. And then inhale, lift and rise the arms up, and then exhale. Take them behind you, and this is where you can see that back position. Now, this may be a little bit deep, especially in the morning time. So you may want to just take those forearms or the wrists and hold here. And then we're just going to allow the top body to release down and have a gentle rock from side to side. So it's inhale over, exhale. Inhale, a nice pendulum swing, and exhale. Inhale up. Now notice also that the head is almost like the tail of a swinging pendulum. It just kind of loops around and then is the last thing to kind of follow suit and fall through. And enjoy that motion. This is where we can get that middle back, especially for anyone that's been doing a lot of classes that are working the spine and the back musculature. All right, so from here, hopefully everyone can see me again. All right, I'm going to tip this down a little bit. I'm going to open up with the legs. I always like to start open in the morning as opposed to that straight and narrow. This is a little aggressive, I find. I think this is a little nicer, but that's just me. Everybody's got their own way. So opening the legs here comfortably. You don't have to over open. It's still early. It's still The birds were out today, but it was cold. Where's the warm? Please, anybody? Where's the warm? Where's my warm? Anyhow, so just opening up here, you can actually guide the knees open slightly, not too hard, just open to roll those legs, rotating them out just ever so slightly. We'll just take it down to one side. Again, we're not overdoing, we're just kind of lifting up through the inhale, exhale, and release over. Inhale up, let that head just be the last thing that decides to come along for the ride. Coming up, and exhale, take it over. Now, as we allow ourselves to hang out here for a little while, you can add extra pressure here on that inside leg to keep that space open. I don't know if anybody has any blocks with them today. I'm in a moment going to go run and grab two over there just so you can see if you have blocks. Blocks are your friends. I don't care what anybody says. You're not cheating yourself out of anything by using a block. So this palm can either come open on the spine behind you, or it can lay flat on that hip area. That's a personal choice. They are kind of innervating different areas of the shoulder, but they're both great, and you can kind of figure out which one you prefer. Or if you're feeling up to it this morning, you can allow that arm to travel over and just frame the face. And when you're ready, you can begin to spin and turn the top body toward the leg. Now, if you don't have blocks with you, what you want to do is just lightly put your hands on the earth, but not go too deep. Because some people are happy going here. We don't want to overdo it. So you can remain here. If you have a block, you can place that block on the outer portion of the leg, which I'm going to go grab one right now while you hang out here for another 10 to 20 seconds. Hold on one second. And I know that I turned Jackie on to the cork blocks. You still using your cork blocks, Jackie? I hope. I like both of them, actually. I'm starting to go back to these a little bit more for certain things, but having that block on level 1, 2, or 3 is great. So you're not over tilting all of the weight into that one pose. It's a lot, especially in the morning, to have all of the top body weight pouring into that pose. We don't want to overdo. So come on up gently. We'll just take it over to the other side. So we'll walk over with our blocks as well here. Again, either 1, 2, 1, 2, or 3. At the outside of the leg is where you really want that, because that's the ability to prevent too much spilling into the pose. So we'll start here. See how this feels, turning the top body over that leg. And then when you're ready, you can start to exhale, begin to just gently fold into the pose and go as far as the breath will allow you. The breath is going to tell you, okay, that's enough, because you'll start going, okay, that's enough. So when you're comfortable and flowing in the breath, you'll know this is far enough. So you can press out here for that moment or two, lift up, either place that palm behind, facing out or facing in. Let the gaze turn upward. That is actually a wonderful tool to really make sure that these shoulders are relaxed by keeping this arm behind. If you'd like, you can start to stream it over. This is where you're going to feel that extra body weight pouring into the pose. Allow that belly to remain drawing in towards the spine, yet it's still rising and falling with the breath. And then exhale, begin to turn towards that foot. Now, my natural state for this time of day is like a level 2 on the block, because it feels great to go really deep, but what you'll find is later on in the day, you are in so much pain because you overstretched, and it feels great when you're doing it, but then you're wondering why you're achy. It's probably because you overstretched. So there's no point. Well, you know, we can stretch again later, you know. And just allow that breath to settle in. So it's the inhale, the energy up through the feet, up to the top of the head, retain it a moment, and then exhale, pour anything of challenge or difficulty that the pose is bringing about. Let it exhale out through the feet. It's a visual exercise. After a while, you may actually feel that energy leave. And it feels really nice because then you can kind of come back into that center space of balance and peace with the breath. So here we are back into the position where I'm going to push this away a wee bit. So we're keeping this wide-legged pose. Take the arms behind you. Now I'm sitting on a blanket, a little slightly rolled up blanket. If you are, just allow yourself to press on that blanket. If you're not, just press right on the earth. Just lift up a little bit, having the arms behind you, and allow the rib cage to open at the front, and find that the arms are holding the spine, or the erector spine, which really is holding up the spine on either side. You're just opening up a little bit wider, a little bit deeper. Let the head comfortably fall back, not to the point where you're straining. Nice open jaw, softness. And then exhale, replace those sits bones back to the earth. Exhale, draw the arms close in and give yourself a well-deserved hug. This is my favorite part. And here, sometimes people like to keep their legs in for that, because they feel like they need a little bit more stability. Otherwise, they roll themselves right off and they just fall. And then open, opposite direction, and give yourself a deep hug again. Hope you're smiling for this part, because it's not every day you get to hug yourself. So there you go. We're going to do the same thing with the leg. This is my absolute favorite, as Shannon definitely knows, because this is where you're hugging your leg and you're opening this whole SI joint. This place gets so stiff. And so as when you run, especially, right, Shannon? It's a killer. Leaning down into it, slowly open, and it feels great. And it's a nice peaceful rhythm. It's quite meditative, but it's also a way to give yourself some extra love, because it doesn't feel like you're holding your own leg. Everybody agrees with that, except for I have one person that's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, that's okay. It's okay. You can feel it or not. Other leg now. Just give yourself a nice deep hug. Hold that leg in. So some people do prefer to have the other leg straight. I find it's a little bit easier to keep the bend. It kind of keeps you more stable in your weeble wobble state. I'm dating myself. The weeble wobble. Love those things. Simple. All right, one more time, and then exhale. Remember, all of these movements are following the inhale and exhale. Basically, it's exhaling through the exertion of almost all of the poses that we come into. There's a couple that are a little bit different, but I'll let you know if we get to those today. So let's just take those legs, cross them in, and just hold whatever your dominant wrist is. So obviously, if you are right-handed, then you are going to have your left hand hold your right wrist. Just gently tilt the head down and just have a moment of peace with yourself. A little moment of gratitude for allowing yourself the gift of yoga today. And honoring the universe, divine spirit, whatever you have, those words that you've chosen for your divine intelligence, and just give thanks for being here for another day, the ability to help self through your challenges, as well as your friends, your neighbors, your family. And we are very eternally grateful for the gift of life that we have today. So we say thanks. And lift up. Now we come into with a straight leg. I'm sitting here, I don't know if you can see my feet, but I'm going like this. I'm moving about with the ankles and the wrists, and anything that you can think of a external joint that bothers you. You don't even have to necessarily know it bothers you, but just find any joint and just start moving it freely. I have a funny story that happened this week to me in Shavasana on Wednesday. I have those mallets over there by the window. I've got some orchids, and one of my orchids is coming back. And I use these essential oils on people before their Shavasana, as you know, if you've been there with me. And I have the bowls. I must have had an oil on the mallet. I go to pick up the mallet. Everybody's in Shavasana, and I get stung by a wasp. And I go, it was a bit crazy. It was a bit crazy, but I managed to work it through, and all was well. So roll the arms up nice and tall here. We're having our Uchenasanas to start. So bring your right leg in. If you're on your left, that's fine. And as we roll out from the base of the spine, release, 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 and come into crossing here at the wrist, right over the leg. I'll sit back a wee bit so you can see that. So we're crossing, so we're not overdoing the pose. This is helping to soften the shoulders. Top of the head is drawing towards the toes. Recognize the breath and its gentle flows. If you find that it's flowing quite nicely and you want to make it a little bit deeper, you can do so by inhaling, release out from the base of the spine. Think of each of the vertebrae extending out longer through towards the toes, and then any of the extra that you may find can come right over the leg. And now let's just inhale, rise up, and exhale, release. And switch legs. Keeping this flex through that right leg. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, tops of the shoulders down. I kind of keep that thumb cross over in order to soften the shoulders, and we'll just cross right over the ankle. And again, if you have your blocks and you want to use them, feel free to come into the blocks as opposed to staying in towards the leg. You can have your choice there, either one that works for you. Extending long each inhalation, rising up through that foot, bringing that beautiful pure energy up from earth, and exhale anything that's sitting in the body, let it release out through that foot. Inhaling and exhale. And let's just twist open in the pose a little bit so we can bring it on up. And then exhale, bring it in. Great. All right. So before we come up into our tabletop position, let's just hold the toes for a moment and just kind of rock the legs. But this is really about bringing that set of sits bones a little bit closer to the heels. So that's really what we're doing here, but it's also opening the chest as well. Uttanasana, keep that gaze turning upward. Draw the elbows back in towards the hip crease. That way, as we release it down, we're really judging how far we can actually go safely, because we've got that stoppage point right there of the inner thigh and the adductors. It really kind of helps you not go too deep into the pose, and you can feel as far as you can. That is comfortable. Now, when you've reached the finality of the pose, just allow the chin to release down slightly. Inhale and exhale. And then slowly and gently roll on up. Open up through the chest. And here we go. We're going to come into, I know, everybody's favorite, coming into boat pose. We don't have to go crazy with it. We can kind of go as far as is comfortable. We can start with one set of toes on the earth. Make sure that you're open with the spine here. So that's why I was saying hold the backs of the knees in order to really make sure that you're focusing on keeping the chest open as opposed to rolling back into it. Because after a while, you'll feel like you want to go there anyway, but let's start strong. Take that knee, really draw it up into the thigh. You can take your other leg up. You can almost play around with having one at a time. If you want to just get that balance sense of the sits bones, it's really a balance pose as well as a strength pose. You want to feel as though those legs are drawing together. It's like as if it's one set. Gaze through the toes, not at them, but through them. And when you're ready, you can kind of bring it in, release, and then collapse it down. So when you collapse down, you must allow yourself this time for rest. We just did a little work. It wasn't a tremendous amount of work, but for as long as that work was, we must bring that oxygen back into the body and allow anything of tension that we had created in the pose release out. So make sure you really inhale, take this time to draw the energy up from the feet to the top of the head. Belly expands, and then exhale, release it out. You can make noise too, because nobody's watching. And then we can take those knees. We'll have a choice here, either to roll yourself up, or feel free to just roll onto the side of the body and come on back up. And here we are in our tabletop position. So in our tabletop, you want to make sure that the heel of the hands is right underneath the shoulder, and you have equal distance between that outside ankle and the knee and the hip. So in my quest for finding everything that feels good, I do like to try to find new ways to move the spine. I don't know if we did this one last time I was with you guys, but we'll start with our traditional cat-cow. So exhale, draw the top of the head towards the earth, abdomen up to the spine. And then inhale without overpressing, opening the throat, let that belly release down. Just a gravitational pull, and then exhale into cat. And inhale into cow. And then we can kind of move this energy a little bit side to side. So it's the shoulder and the head moving in an opposite direction. Don't overthink it. I know sometimes when we overthink it, we kind of get off track. Just move however feels natural. And then after a few of those, this is my newfound freedom, which is, I call it a barrel roll. So take it almost as if you're spinning that entire torso. Exhale, release the belly through and that chest, and then inhale, roll it up. So you're shifting the weight from one palm to the other and really allowing that cow type pose at the base, and then exhale up with the cat leg. But it's a nice barrel roll, I call it. And it feels really great for all the parts of the spine, backs, shoulders, everything. So opposite direction. Inhale, and remember, we always have a little bit more coordination on one side than the other, and that's okay. All right, now as we sink into our tucked toes, I don't know if you can see I'm sinking there into the tucked toes, press the whole body back. So we're using our palms to press away, to press forward. Sink back into those toes, gaze it forward without over tilting the head forward. You don't want to over tilt up. You just want to keep that set of fingertips eye level between the palms and gazing through to the front of the mat. And as we do, we're going to place those elbows and forearms down and release through here with forehead, nose, chin, throat, chest, come up into a low cobra. So you really want to make sure that your entire pelvic, the front of the pelvis, is down on the ground, as well as your pubic bone. It's all kind of pressing into the earth. You're really drawing that set of shoulders down into the body, which naturally makes those shoulder blades draw closer together. Your elbows are close in. Do not over tilt your head upward. It's just a way to strengthen that lower half of the body, as well as the back. A nice fullness with the breath. You'll notice that the breath draws that belly up. Exhale, release down. Inhale, a little extra pressure into the palms, and the feet are off the earth just a touch. Now let's lift it up into your full cobra. Now in your full cobra, not everyone has the capacity to drop their entire set of hips down. It's fine, because we don't want to over tilt that spine into a kind of a lordosis state. We don't want to overdo it. So what we want to do is make sure we have plenty of clenching of the buttocks, because if you don't, you're going to hurt your back. Keep that nice clenching. Now your heels, I'm a fan of drawing my heels out here. Everybody has their own way and their own stance that they hold their feet. Everybody's different here. I personally like my toes drawing in slightly with my heels out. Now notice here we're using plenty of pressure on the fingertips as well as the heel of the hands, opening through the chest, and the gaze turns up, tops of the shoulders down. And now let's exhale, bring it up and gently back, nice and slow, especially if you've got any issues with your low back. I'm just kind of bringing this into a nice arc, a nice slow forward and back arc. Notice also that my arms are a little bit more forward and they're not directly under the shoulders. So that's a nice move that you'd want to come into if you have any issues with your low back and if it's a bit too much. And always remember, come out if you find it's too much as well. So coming into the choice for your first Adho Mukha Svanasana, and I'm going to have to adjust this too, I can see, because I'm going to be up here in a minute. Now, if anybody has their blocks and you have level 1, you always want to use, if you choose to use a block for your downward dog, only level 1 is all you need. Now, if you've got a 3-inch block, you're going to want to move that block forward about 3 inches. If it's a 4-inch block, you want to move it forward about 4 inches. Because normally in your downward dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, the heel of the hand is right underneath the shoulder. But if you've got this extra space, you're going to want that extra space drawing that block forward. But we'll try this without for now. So everything in alignment. As we tuck the toes, exhale, draw forward, begin to straighten through the knees. Coming up and then slowly back. So in your first one, we're just getting warmed up. So you really want to have a nice good pedal. Let the head just dangle. And not everyone has the ability to have their heels all the way down. So don't worry about that. That takes years. When I tell like years. And some people are really, really tight through the calf, and that's just a part of it. So this is why we're here. This is why we're doing what we do. So after a few, relaxing the shoulders down, and the head draws down. We'll just take that right leg and lift it up high, flexing through that foot and bend the knee. We're gazing underneath that arm. I love my mat. It's very pretty, but it's very slippy, which is rather unfortunate. Exhale, come on down. And we'll do the same now with the left leg. Take that left leg up. Flex and bend and gaze. Come down at any point if you feel like it's too much. Slowly lowering that foot down to the opposite heel. And then we rise on the toes. Release the knees. tops of the feet to the earth, and come on back into child's pose. Now you can also come into child's pose of your choice, which could also be, I'll give you a couple different options. I'm just moving this over here. I think this might be even better. I think I found something even better. Good. So your child's pose can be just like so, stacking the hands on a block. Knees can be drawing in. Palms can be beside the body with the head down. Some people find that a bit constricting. My personal favorite is with the knees further open. Some people like the arms forward. I like one forward and one back. Just resting the temple right on the top of the hand. And then you can do with the other side. Just allow yourself to breathe and listen to the sound of that rhythmic breath. It's really quite comforting. And one last option for you is to take either both arms through or just one. Taking one arm through, reaching back to the opposite heel, and you can do the same for the other side. Now let's allow those palms to come forward with our forearms. Tuck through the toes. Come forward, up and back. Return here into that downward facing dog. And as we rise that right leg, bringing it up high in the sky, begin to step that foot forward. If you only make it halfway, that's fine. We can pick that foot up if we need, and that's perfectly fine. And guide it forward. Whatever is going to work, perfectly fine. So from here, if you've got your blocks handy or not, you can use them in this position just to kind of allow yourself to get situated with the feeling of the openness of the front of that thigh and that back hip flexor. No major bouncing, just kind of loosening through and feeling what needs to open. And then from here, release that back heel down, keeping steady with the feet. So your feet want to be in alignment with the heels, even though the back toes are turning out about 45 degrees. So as we open and lift the arms, begin to press, especially here on that front heel, to lift and rise. And release into your warrior, your warrior one. So now in your warrior one, the most challenging thing about this pose is to keep the pressure on all parts of the feet. So that means fully on that front foot, all the way around, weight in the back heel, as well as the back side of that foot. So the area from the heel all the way to the pinky toe. If your pose is too wide, it's going to be a challenge. And then it's a little bit more challenging to get out. So come into it more narrow. And then after a time, you can kind of inch the toes forward if you want to make it deeper. Now, as we release out and down on the exhale, begin to straighten this front leg. I like to take this one into a gentle rock because what that does is it allows and gives time for that space of the hamstring to loosen up. It's almost like requesting. It's a request. Please open a little bit more for me. This is a narrow pose. It's not super wide because the hips are square. Now let's just roll onto the back toes higher. So we're a little bit more forward in the pose. Now exhale, roll onto the front heel and lift the front toes. Exhale, rolling it forward. And inhale. Exhale. And inhale. Wonderful. Now let's Gently step forward with that back foot. So this is your Uchenasana. Everybody's got their favorites. Everybody knows that this is my least favorite, but that's okay. You still got to work through it. So today I'm starting with 2 blocks. Top of the head is drawing down towards the earth. And there's a comfortability of the space between the ankle and the hip. So you're pretty much just as wide at the hip as you are with your feet here. So if you feel like you'd like something a little bit softer and a little more gentle, feel free to open the knees a little bit more. Just open the feet, and then you can add that gentle rock. No one said that you got to start coming all the way like this. That's really quite aggressive. And if you have any lower back issues, you're not going to want to do that anyway. You want to be really kind and gentle. You'll get there. It just takes maybe a few more hours of waking up the body in the day, depending on how cold it is. Now let's take those palms, press them just underneath the knees, right on the shins. Now let's take a nice bend and lift and rise into your chair pose. Now your chair pose keeps a little invisible piece of paper between the knees, and watch the tuck. You want that tuck to be slightly in. Unfortunately, I can't see myself big for whatever reason, so I have to keep looking and I can't see anymore. And a little bit of a tuck inward. And bring the palms back here to center. And now let's turn, exhale. You can sink it back a little bit deeper. Softness in the jaw here. So just find the tongue sits upon the roof of the mouth. One arm up, one arm down if you choose. And then we'll swing it forward. And reverse other side. And then dive back down towards your blocks. I bet you're a little bit closer this time around. And feel free to prance here a bit and gently roll up. Inhale. And exhale, coming back into your prayer pose right here, center. Now we'll take this over to the other side as well. Same thing we were doing on the first one. So in our mountain pose, simply step back with our right leg this time and slide that back foot and sink into your warrior one. You might have one side that's far more responsive than the other side. Take note of that, and it's perfectly fine if that's the case. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to keep overextending and working our really good side without spending a little extra time on the side that gives us some trouble, and maybe not going so deep into our side that's working and functioning correctly. Maybe spend a little bit more time on the other side, asking a little bit more each time. Keeping open here through the inside of that front thigh. Really drawing that back knee into that upper thigh too. And now exhale, straighten through that front knee, float the top body down. If you have your blocks handy, great time for them now. Notice we've got that smaller stance in between the legs here, not too wide. Because if it's too wide, what ends up happening is that your hip shifts out. So we want to keep that nice and level. And you can add a little side to side rock. And now we'll do the same with the forward and back. So rise on those back toes. Exhale, sink into the back heel, rise the front toe. Nice little seesaw rock, forward and back. And then from here, let's simply release the back heel down, begin to spin out slightly. We'll take this arm directly to the top of the knee and begin to spin open with the chest for your extended side angle, purposeful Uchenasana. Gazing through. You can play around with the position of this elbow as well. Some people prefer just to have it leaning and just protecting the head and neck. Other people prefer it stronger and pressing down the body. You can even take this arm and bring it to the back and then begin to gaze back through that shoulder. Exhale, begin to straighten out. We'll take our blocks with us just to do that gentle walk around to the other side, because we're going to keep the position, just switching sides here. And then we'll take this over. Same thing on this side here. So take a nice healthy bend to this knee. Make sure that knee is staying right over the ankle, no further. Open palm, open and lift, and bring it over. A nice strong pose, super opening. Taking that arm to the back if you'd like. Gazing up over that shoulder. Beautiful strength. Now begin to spin down. Once again, you straighten that leg. We'll come right here to center. Both legs. Toes drawing forward here. If you need a little assistance and a little extra, just allow your blocks to foot the bill and let those arms just dangle. If you're happy and comfortable, you can make it deeper just by taking hold of the ankles. Roll it in. And then slowly begin to turn that first foot that we were on originally. You can have that block right here for our triangle pose. Now in triangle, you really want to enjoy that opening because it's a beautiful thing to have that free sense of spirit. I do this. Everybody thought it was corny at first, but then everybody does it in the class now too. I want you to take your opposite hand and just roll it up your arm. Roll it past your chest and give that heart up. Give it up. Give it right up towards the heavens. Gaze through. Your Trikonasana, it really is. It is the most forgiving, heart-opening pose, fully supported. You can have that block or not. It's really up to you. You can let that arm relax to the back. If you choose, that's up to you as well. And then just roll peacefully back towards the earth. And we'll just do the same here with the other leg. You have a choice. You can either step that back foot up because y'all are doing it your way at home. So I don't know how much space you have. I'm just going to turn my body over this side. Same idea here. I'm using level 2 block. Pressing into the earth, sweep that arm up, ask that heart to open, give it up. You want both of these legs to be extended. If there's an issue in extending that front leg, come up higher, come up here. If there's still an issue, come up here with a bent elbow up to the thigh. I'd rather see this one straight than have a bend because we work, there's so many exercises that we work this hamstring. We really want to open it. And then exhale, sweep yourself back down and walk through. We're going to come into a balance pose and then we'll take you back down. How are we doing for time? Oh, that's perfect. Okay. All right, so I'm going to come up so you can see my up pose. Let's come into let's come into the eagle today. All right, let's see how we do. I keep moving this around. I'm trying to get the best bang for my buck here. All right, so in eagle, we're going to have the legs going in an opposite direction of the arms. So when we cross our left over our right, it's going to be our right over our left, which actually makes sense because it helps you balance. If you're doing both going the same way, you might topple over. So I always say start with a focal point of 2 spots. One would be for the earth with your feet, the grounding of the feet, and the other one is your focal point with your eye to make sure that you've got both of your capital letter I, crossed at bottom and top. What that does is it allows for the stability here, and it allows for the stability here, and it allows you to be in the pose a lot longer. So always start with that left foot down. This is the foot we always start with. It's that Mother Earth creation. So inhale up through that foot. If you can see what I'm doing here on the earth with the foot, I'm just allowing this foot to just rest upon the other for now. So inhale, draw the energy up from the earth, right from the center of the earth up to the top of the head. Exhale, release the energy back down towards the earth through that foot. It's like a grounding cord. It's dropping into the center of the earth. And then when we inhale, rising that energy up again, there's a stability, really holding naturally the body. Now the other one is going to be the focal point of the eye, and that is something of color or texture contrast that you gaze at. But once you start finding that thing, I'm looking at a white set of molding with my brown shade. I'm going to put my eye right in between, but I'm not going to look at it, I'm going to look through it. You can be in a pose so much longer than you ever imagined just doing those two things. So keep with that breath up through the foot and out. Now let's begin to lift and rise that right leg, cross it over. It doesn't have to wrap all the way. It's perfectly fine. As far as it goes, it's perfect. Now open up those arms out to the side. Now since we're crossing that right over the left, we're crossing the left arm over the right. Twist the arms, bring them here into that pattern where you can see through. Remember, the breath is fluid, continual, and steady. And release. And then just allow anything that you were holding in that pose to just release. This is where you let it go. And then slowly inhale, roll up. We'll do the same with the other side. Starting with that grounding cord with that right foot. Inhale, lift and rise the energy up through the foot, up to the top of the head. It's okay, let that belly rise. Exhale, release anything of tension, toxins, worries, out through that foot. Inhale. Your eye focus begins at the same time. I like to get the foot one very clear and steady before I move the eyes to that same focus. All right, the left leg is over the right. So now we cross the right over the left. Arms come up and out and then down. Don't forget to breathe. And release out, unwind. Let go completely. This is where you get to go. Let it out. Because if you don't, you begin to settle all of that energy of tension, holding a pose, it starts to settle into your body. So you've got to get it out. And then we're ready to settle down. So I'm just going to get a couple of bowls. We have a few minutes. I'll give you an option to either lie yourself down or you can sit in a comfortable position in a lotus or a half lotus. And I'll just have a few moments to say the Om and play a couple of jingle bells with my bowls. Okay, I'll be right back. Let me get the bowls. I checked for wasps. I'm good today. So just allow that breath to travel in equal patterns of inhale, tapering off at the top, and exhale, release. With all things we know, there is a peaceful, loving mind. Abundance shall flow. Breathe and soften. In this moment or two, recognize the fullness of all that you are and the full potential you have been provided. And there are no mistakes, there are only places of healing to occur. Remain in your awareness, and the guidance is there. I will say the Om Shanti Om. You may repeat with me or rest in silence. Jai Shri Satguru Maharaj Ki, as the light absorbs all darkness. Peace and love to you all.